Are you ready for me, Mr. Chairman?
We're ready.
All right, so this afternoon, first on the agenda was a discussion on the People's Initiative. We've kind of had some of that discussion all throughout the morning with some of our other topics here. They're all kind of interrelated. So I don't know if I have a lot more to add on that. As was noted earlier, I think if the initiative passes, I think it's clear how it interacts with the long-term homeowners exemption as a result of House Bill 45 from last year. It's not exactly clear how it might interact with the current 25% homeowners exemption. So that's something the legislature will likely want to respond to if it passes. I think the legislature will have the ability to respond in the next session and make that applicable to the 2027 tax year. And I did want to note, I think our next, or not our next meeting, but our November meeting is after the election. So at that meeting, we will know the results of the vote. And so that will give us a chance to respond even at that meeting of how this committee might want to move forward on those issues. I think that's mostly what I had, Mr. Chairman. I'd be happy to take any questions, or I don't know if Matt had anything as far as we kind of talked on some of the numbers earlier. But that's what we had, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions? Senator Hyde.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just real quick, Mr. Anderson. So the fiscal impact on that People's Initiative, and help me understand this, was done like in 2023. And it went to committee, and if it had variances of $25,000 and nobody disagreed with that, and there was no complaints, you can't really change the methodology on that now since it was done in 2023. Is that correct? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think that sounds correct. I think the statute puts that on the Secretary of State and in consultation with the Attorney General's office to put together the ballot statement and to include the impacts, the fiscal impact to the state.
Chairman McHugh and Senator Hyde, Ken Gill could probably respond a little more because he worked with the Secretary of State's office back in 2023 when they put that together. It was based off 2022 data, but we did prepare an estimate last year based on, I think it was 25 data. That's on page 99 of the property tax memo, or actually page 98. But that's the initiative that the DOR and I worked together to put numbers on to the People's Initiative. So I think, as DOR talked about earlier, we don't know exactly where that 92 million that came out in the Secretary of State's info just recently actually is based on. The estimate that we had put together on that page 98 is around $124.7 million.
Senator Hyde.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And that, so I understand, is the fiscal impact to the state, not to the subsidiary governments. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Hyde, that would be the entire impact. So if you look on, there's a little table on the bottom there, has the SFP 12 mills, the school 31 mills, the county 12 mills, and then all other mills. So to break that out, 70, 80. Right here. So 70% of that would go to schools.
Okay.
80 million. The other 42 would be locals and county.
Okay.
And this, though, is based on current law last year. So with long-term homeowner going away down the road, which is not the case anymore, but.
Quick follow.
Oh,
Sorry, I'm just trying to get educated on this here, but does the state law just refer to the state impact and not the subsidiary governments? Is that the way the law reads?
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, so if you look at 22, 24, 317, I believe it says the ballot statement needs to include the estimated fiscal impact to the state. So it does.
Okay. Thank you.
Co-Chairman Locke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Anderson. So I know you kind of answered this before, but we have these little nuance things, for example, the 6-month versus 8-month, and some of these things. If this thing passes, I guess the answer might be you're not sure yet, but I'm curious where we have latitude to bring them to consistency and where we don't as a legislature. I'm just curious because that's a tricky one. You know, we've kind of set the 8-month, at least in some other cases. And is that something we can bring, we can make that type of change in the legislature if we had to, or is that something that we can't? I'm not sure, but I'd love to hear your thoughts.
So, Mr. Chairman, so I sent the language of Constitution, Article 3, Section 52, I think it was subsection F, and in there it says that it cannot be vetoed, it cannot be repealed for 2 years, but it does say that it may be amended at any time. So I think that gives the legislature some ability to conform that with those types of things, Mr. Chairman, and make the change to 8 months if that was the policy decision of the body.
Sure. Another question, and this is just a very broad question. So have you thought about it in context? I tend to think of these things, a lot of the changes we've made, in my opinion, are property tax relief. And ultimately, we just went through the whole section on the concepts, property tax reform, of which there's many. I guess I really haven't, I guess we're trying to consider it against a lot of these reform concepts. Have you guys taken some time and looked at those to say, if this gets put in place, how do those affect this? And that being said, since we can't sunset it, for example, because I always tend to think if we were to get true property tax reform in place, one would argue a lot of these other things that are property tax relief might be sunsetted. And I don't know. So I think what you just told us was that could not be done in this case unless until at least for 2 years. So any property tax reform that might, for example, supersede this or be more appropriate than this would have to wait for that 2 years before it could be addressed. Is that accurate?
Mr. Chairman, that's an interesting question for sure. A lot of moving parts there. So, if this got put into place at a 50% exemption and for example, one of the examples we talked about earlier was just taking residential property to zero and we wouldn't have any exemptions then, is that repealing that or not? So I think a ton of potential moving parts in there, and it's I think a difficult question to answer, but I think it would really depend on kind of where we ended up, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you make a good point. For example, the property tax replacement one wouldn't matter if it's in place. The answer is it's been replaced. So that's one of them that's an easy answer. Maybe. I say that loosely, as you could guess. But in most of the other ones, if you looked at, I don't know, fair market value at transfer, if you even look at the Senate File 110, have you thought through in any way how that would, those would affect it? Or let's oversimplify it. Let's just look at Senate File 110. How would those two play together, for example? Because if you look at some of these, they're going to require a constitutional change anyway for them to be implemented. So let's say that kicks that down the road 2 years. So let's take one that may or may not require that type of timing. Let's take Senate File 110. Have you thought about how it would, if it were to pass, how we would merge those, blend those in, how we would work them together? I apologize, I haven't, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that one.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that's an interesting question. So yeah, the Constitution does say it can't be repealed for 2 years. So I think you'd have to likely have some kind of exemption in place. Senate File 110 did in that bill repeal the 25% exemption, but I think reading the Constitution, we would likely wouldn't be able to fully repeal that exemption for 2 years. Whether you could amend it down to a lower amount, taking into account that it's, reducing property taxes in other ways by reducing mills and by reducing the assessment rate. And maybe you could come up with a number in the middle there that kind of gets close to that. But I think the legislature likely would not be able to fully repeal the exemption in that case, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Sackett, this is just, I didn't know if you had time. The one thing that I kind of was asking about, I didn't know if you had time to look at that 2% transfer and if you guys had a chance to look at those numbers. One of the things if you didn't, it's okay. One of the things that I wanted to ask about, and I would ask you to take a look at it, the 2% transfer tax that we talked about before lunch. One of the things that I thought we should understand is if that were to be put in place, what is the impact on that? Because one of the topics on that 2% transfer tax that I think we want to understand is clearly this impacts people who hold homes for a shorter period of time. It impacts them more. And I think that we would like to understand what a 2% tax, if you paid something close to equivalent, and I'm sorry, I should have run these numbers and that's on me for sure, but what does that pay off in if, for example, you had something equivalent to what would be a normal property tax on a whatever, $200,000, $400,000 home? If that's something you can calculate for this group, I think it's important for this group to know because in some ways this is an impact, at least at some level, on people who hold their homes a shorter period of time versus people who hold their homes over a longer period of time. So anyway, if you have anything like that, it'd be great. If you don't, I realize I'm dropping the bomb on you right here.
Mr. Chairman, not a problem. So quick calculation I did for the 400,000 that we talked about. So $400,000 house at a 9.5% assessment rate with an average statewide mill levy of 68 mills equals $2,584 in property tax per year. A $400,000 house at a 2% real estate transfer is $8,000. And that's as far as I'd gotten in the calculations before we came up here. But so that's what three something times. So about 3 years would be 3 years of property tax would be close to, say, the real estate transfer tax.
Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
Senator Case. Well, just following up on that real estate transfer tax question. That bill that you're talking about did that just apply to owner occupied or was it all real estate? Because, that's going to make a big difference.
I believe we're looking at just owner occupied.
For the transfer tax?
Yeah.
So that makes it a lot less powerful, the people you might want to tax are the people that are speculating in homes as opposed to living in home.
Actually, I believe I misspoke. It's
Okay.
everything.
Mr. Chairman, the estimate is based on all residential transfers, so
Okay.
all residential,
Representative Storer.
residential only.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the concept is to replace property tax with a real estate transfer tax. Is that why we're talking about this? Just so I make sure I understand.
Yeah, we're just looking into it.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, if I might suggest, we've looked at real estate transfer taxes, especially in Teton County as a county option in the past, mostly looking at the idea that that would be a source of funding for affordable housing. And we did look at the idea of having a floor so that, it would be for properties either $1 million or $2 million over. And we might want to look at that as well and just see kind of where the breakout is in terms of where the real revenues come in. I might suggest. Thank you.
Senator Ide.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, that brings up good questions. Your memo mentions residential, and I was a little unclear on that too, as Senator Case brought it up. I assume that that's single-family condos, doesn't take in multifamily, apartment buildings. So you're shaking your head, yeah. So I think I've got that. My second question is, do you know what that math is on the average length of home ownership in Wyoming is? I think I looked it up one time through some resource, I can't remember. And that period of time is growing again because people are holding their homes longer, evidenced by the sales that you've got here versus what they were 5 years ago. Do you know what that, or can you get that average for us on the average homeowner ownership of a single family residence, essentially? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Ide, I don't have that off the top of my head, but we can definitely look into that, and I can talk to DOR and see if, and maybe assessors to see if they have some information on average length of home ownership.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Case.
Well, it's interesting to me that we're sitting here talking about what we could propose and how we could modify the people's initiative to make it work and be better, because it's not very workable right now. I mean, that's kind of what we're doing here, even people on both sides. That ought to say something about the people's initiative in the first place.
Senator Ide.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I don't quite understand Senator Case's comment on being unworkable. I mean, I think that we're looking for solutions here, so you're not renting from the government the rest of your life, kind of like Florida just did. They just passed both chambers going on their ballot this year where they're trying to eliminate property taxes down there. They've got it staged to, the first year, $250,000 exemption on their homestead, gets rid of 70% of the homes, or 70% of the homes are exempt. Year two, it goes to $500,000, and 90% of the homes are exempt from residential property taxes. So I think that we've got a direction here, and I don't think it's unworkable. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Riggins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So with the transfer tax, did that apply to all? I'm just thinking of WCDA and some of these other arrangements financing wise. I assume that it would be applicable across the board for all the transfers. I didn't know if there's any considerations otherwise.
I think that's the assumption we've made so far. We don't have a bill right now on this, but I think that was kind of our assumption that it would apply to all residential properties.
I think we're ahead of schedule.
Okay, we'll open the public comment up for anybody who wants to come forward. Anybody online? Okay. Let's move to the next topic.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ken Gill with the Department of Revenue, Property Tax Division. This next topic was last year, the legislature passed a 75,000 fair market value exemption on business personal property. And I believe it should have been supplied in your packet from LSO. And we calculated those numbers. I will caution on these numbers. These numbers are a month old. So I'm sure some counties were still working some of these exemptions. So take these as you will. It's a little old data right now, but we will update by the next meeting for you. As you can see, on the left-hand side would be the 75,000 fair market value personal property exemption broken down by county. And then I use the average mill levy to calculate those tax dollar amounts. So that came up to around 5.5 million locally. And then on the right-hand side, I did the state assessed, and we broke those down by industry. So if you remember correctly, one company per county got a $75,000 exemption. So let's say you have a company that supplies propane across the county, and they're reporting in multiple districts. Well, that was prorated between all of those different reports. So it was 75,000 per person, per company, if you will, per county. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I would stand for any questions. I might mention about 70% of the local assessed business personal property accounts now have a tax bill of $0.
Outstanding. I got a kind of a related question, but not. How much did commercial property tax go up this year across the state?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know that answer. And obviously right now we would be looking at assessed values. And when you look at 1 year's assessed value versus the current year assessed value, not a real fair comparison, right? Because you've added new businesses, maybe businesses have gone away, whatever the case may be. New buildings have gone up. So it's never a really good apples to apples comparison. The only way we could do that is compare 2025, let's say, with 2026 on the exact same properties, and we could probably give you that number. But right now, those numbers are coming in. In fact, as I was checking my email, the State Board of Equalization just sent me a whole mailbox full of abstracts that I didn't have yet. So we will get those numbers, and if okay with you, Mr. Chairman, I can get those numbers compiled and get them out to the committee and LSO probably sometime next week.
Thank you. Yes. Co-Chairman Locke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, thank you, Mr. Gill, for coming up and running through this. So I'm looking at this chart. And so you said that 70% of businesses, small businesses, I guess, no longer have a personal property tax burden. Is that what I heard you say?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Co-Chairman, that is correct. It's right around 70% of personal property count. Personal property reporters, I guess, would be the right verbiage there. will not receive a tax bill in 2026 because their value is now zero. In other words, the property that they were reporting, and keep in mind, we're a self-reporting state, the property that they were reporting was below 75,000 fair market value.
Thank you.
Follow up.
Thank you for that, just that clarification. So as I look at this slide, you can see that it goes up pretty steadily every year, anywhere from 8 to, I guess we do have a 1% year and a 2% year, and then we got a 22% year, but probably maybe ballparkish 7-8%, probably pretty consistently. It's gone up every year. Now, one of the things that as you go pull the numbers together, if you don't mind, is there any way for you to tell how much of that is because of growth in commercial business, so new businesses? I think that additional information would be helpful, because what the clear picture, now this is assuming same businesses. If you look at it, it's going up, even in spite of the fact that 70% of the reporters are reporting zero, let's say. That being said, the number's still going up this year, or excuse me, last year, my bad. 8%, the year before that, 4%, so it's still going up. If you could possibly pull together that data on how much of that is because of new businesses versus that's what's, how this is, I'd just like to understand how this is affecting our businesses overall. That's what I would like to understand better. And the only way to do that is to try to figure out, hey, did we have, I don't know, and maybe these numbers don't work well, but did we have a whole bunch of new businesses and that's why it went up? I'm just kind of curious to see, maybe if you can come up with enough data for us to understand what's driving it. It hasn't gone down in spite of the fact we've done the $75,000 limit. So just curious as you pull the numbers together, if you could help us with some additional data so we could better understand this data. Because I think if you just come out and say, oh, it went up, I don't know, X% this year, it's going to be hard to tell if we don't understand some other aspects of commercial business and why it's doing what it's doing, if that makes sense.
That's all. So, Mr. Chairman, I think you're referring to the Wyoming Historical Total Commercial Property Assessed Values. So that's going to be not only business personal property, that's going to be real property also. So we could probably pull numbers together. It won't be perfect for personal property because they end up reporting in one district and then maybe they leave that district and report over here. That might be a little tough, but I think we can probably put some analysis together, both of real and of personal.
Representative Lean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In 2025, we did pass a bill that added some depreciation scales to our personal property. Could you talk to us about how that's been affecting this number as well?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Representative Lean, I don't have that yet, and we won't know until next year, actually, how that will affect anything. That was Senate File 49, I believe. So currently, what will happen once a asset has reached its life expectancy, right? Let's say it's a 10-year life expectancy on an asset. It reaches that 10-year, then that trending is going to freeze. So we're no longer going to be valuing that property ad valorem as per value. We're not going to be trending that, and it will stay at that trending factor forever until it's disposed of. And that's how that law was written. We might have an idea next year how that will affect, because this will be the first year that we actually froze that trending. So next year, when it still is frozen, we might be able to calculate that.
Quick question. Is the reporting in March still in effect, even if you're at zero?
Mr. Chairman, that is a good question. Yes, I believe the law that you passed does not affect the reporting. So if XYZ business does not receive a tax bill in 2026, they are still responsible to report the personal property that they have or maybe acquired, because maybe they were at 74,999 and now they're over 75,000. So I don't believe that law has affected any of the reporting. And of course, it is self-reporting in Wyoming.
Thank you for the clarification. That's, my understanding of it too.
How's the meat grinder, Mr. Chairman?
It's still at 10%. Which is better. Any public comment? Anybody online? We must be scary today. Okay, I guess we'll go through the committee directives. What did you capture, Mr. Anderson?
So, Mr. Chairman, I don't think I have any committee requests at this point. Certainly, you guys can, we have any, at least not as far as bill drafts go, but, anything you want us to work on, Mr. Chairman, we're happy to do.
I think I gave you one.
You did, Mr. Chairman,
The
as far as
25%.
the dealing with the, initiative on the 25%. So we'll have that one ready, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Yeah.
The average length of home ownership.
That's, yeah. And the average length of home ownership?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, going around. Anybody? Like to see something for bill drafts? Go ahead, Co-Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to have a bill draft on the fair market value at time of transfer. I'd like to see a bill draft on that again moving forward, and I'd like that to include the constitutional change, something similar. Now, I think there's some potential modifications on the constitutional change that would be required, but I'd like to see a bill draft on that. Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we move acquisition value or fair market value at time of transfer, and I'd like to move that bill draft to include the constitutional change for us to take a look at in the next meeting.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Senator Ide.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to resurrect the repeal of residential property taxes, primary residence, basically homestead property, similar to what we had last year. And I assume it would probably have the trigger on it with the sales tax increase. And we can talk about that second part of it with potential real estate transfer tax to be involved with that increase in sales tax. But the initial one would be just to redraft from the committee the bill for repeal that we had in the 2026 session.
Do we have a second? Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. All those in favor,
call.
raise your hands. All those opposed? 4. Okay. Motion passes. Any other? Go ahead, Representative Riggins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just wanting to know if we wanted to consider a draft related to the Citizens Initiative and make sure we specify what existing relief won't be tied automatically to it. Or do we want, are there certain elements of the other relief programs we don't want to carry forward if it should pass? I thought we had talked about it and discussions came back and forth a little bit during the day. I can't remember if it was the 25% would continue on if it passed, whether or not. So I would move that we draft the bill that should the citizen initiative pass, that it eliminates considering some of the relief programs that it will essentially take the place of. So I would say, I think the 25% has already considered for elimination if that should pass. So,
No, actually, it's your choice.
oh,
You can take the 50.
Oh, the choice,
You
okay.
can take the 25. You can take the 50 for long-term homeowners.
well, the only reason I would suggest that, well, that's because we talked about trying to decomplicate this process for assessors. And if that passed and you just took 25% away and that was still in place, that decomplicates things and makes it easier on them. So, I mean, certain things are already going to be in place. Property tax refund program is going to continue to exist. The veterans exemption is going to continue to exist. So there's going to be plenty of other little programs that are still tied to it. I was just looking for ways to actually try to help the assessors like we suggested we might, you know.
I think the easiest way around that is if it does pass, we amend it to include property, land,
Oh,
and then
the
it'll
land?
be the same. And then you can get rid of everything without raising people's taxes.
So if you included the property all across the board, and then eliminated the 25%, then of course that's another big increase, but I was just looking for other suggestions, how to go move forward with that. And make it less of a challenge for our assessors.
Is there a motion in there?
Yeah. I'll make that motion. And anybody has clever ideas how to amend it, I would look forward to it. So.
Representative Lean.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second for discussion purposes and offer an amendment that in this bill draft, the 4% cap was to remain in place and the 25% would then become replaced by the People's Initiative.
Okay.
Yeah.
Friendly amendment?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Need to vote on the
Yeah.
motion first.
Before we, Mr. Chairman, before we vote on the motion, would you define the motion so kind of write it down? Understand exactly what we're voting on here. Thank you.
If the People's Initiative passes, the 25% will go away, correct?
Correct.
And the amendment is the 4% cap stays. So you'd have the 4% cap in the People's Initiative.
Discussion on that 4%. I want to be real clear on that.
Not a problem, Senator Dockstetter.
Get that mic.
4% would stay in place as a cap. No, you're fine. We got plenty of time. Any other discussion? Okay, let's vote on the motion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. I believe the ayes have it.
This is just the 25.
Yeah. Let's do everybody who's for this, raise your hand. Because you might get more off the 25.
Oh, you want that.
I'll do it for discussion.
Numbers.
I think it passes. Okay, anything else? Co-Chairman Locke.
I would like, at least like to open up for discussion and see what the rest of the body, I still think that, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, I sort of jumped in. I still think that, Senate File 110 is worth additional looking. And so I guess what I'll do, I'll go ahead and make a motion and we'll just discuss it and we'll see where we go from there. But I would make a motion that we move Senate File 110, draft bill like Senate File 110 forward. Now I think I would amend that a little bit, what is in Senate File 110 with some of the complexities of changing the,
You voted on the amendment.
oh, sorry, I'm,
For amendment.
oh, you have to do that?
Yes. Well, she amended it. Now we got to vote on the amendment for the 4% cap staying in place.
Oh. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Side caps.
Yeah. I think we're okay since he concurred it would be all part of that.
Okay,
I think we're good.
take her away.
Sorry, I'd like to move, a draft bill for Senate File 110. But I think the piece I would remove is some of the complexity with, the percentage changes that were in there. I would probably remove that from the initial draft. Maybe we'd have an opportunity to talk about that. Does that make sense? I know that's kind of conceptual, but I know there were some complexities. There was a split out in there. And I would like to at least remove the percentage changes initially in that draft. But that again, that's me.
So, Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, would that be leaving all residential at 9.5% or moving it all to 8.3%, Mr. Chairman?
I guess initially for the draft, I guess we'd start at just leaving it at 9.5%. And then, but I'd like to make that motion and certainly I'm open to amendments to that motion if people have opinions on that. But I think that'd be a good bill for us to see, at least moving forward as another potential option for what is potentially some reform. Let's change it to percent.
Do we have a second? It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Representative Storer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I would ask the bringer of the suggestion to explain then what the bill does for sure. I'm looking at it and, sorry. So I'm assuming then it would still repeal the 25% homeowners property tax exemption and it would reduce the 25 mil school levy to 0 mils. Is that correct?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, that was the discussion. That's what I proposed. And I know I believe another element, and maybe I have to lean on LSO on this. I believe another element of that was, does that now apply to owner occupied only? Or would it apply to all residential? I believe the original bill, and probably we might leave this in the draft, that it would at least apply to owner occupied. I believe the only piece of that I recommended in my motion was that maybe we remove the percentage change and the split out. But at the end of the day, that probably would not remove the owner occupied piece of that for the 25 mills. If that makes sense to everybody, but I think that I would ask for discussion on that. Thank you. And was I clear? Did I make sense? Thank you.
My understanding is then that those provisions, at this point, the 25% homeowners only does apply to owner occupied. So that's what you would be changing. And that was also, I think, the change for the mill levy as well. On residents and associated land with a 6-month residency, just reading off the matrix. I'm curious what the fiscal implications are for that. Does anyone remember?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me help with that. So,
that one's there.
and again, I'll let LSO correct me if I'm wrong, but this is related to the Senate File 110 bill. So this is the 25 mills. But if the committee recalls, there was a piece in there that moved the residential property. I believe the owner occupied residential property down to 8.3 was one of the changes. And I'd propose that maybe we do this in the absence of that change, but leave in the piece where the 25 mills would be zero for the residential homeowners, but what owner occupied residential homeowners, what that does, and I won't speak too much for the LSO, but my recollection was what that did before was that was about $130 million impact, but that was also removing the 25% impact. I probably didn't explain that very well at all, but trying.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Pappas.
Yes, are you going to include the appropriation as well in there for with or without the appropriation?
I honestly didn't remember what was in that bill before, but I guess I would ask LSO, was there an appropriation in there before?
Mr. Chairman, that was in the engrossed version of the bill. Yeah, there was a $500,000 appropriation to the Department of Revenue for an update to the assessment and tax systems. So basically, computer programming for the department and for the counties.
At this point, I would probably I would move the bill without the appropriation, and I would ask that we have that conversation in a little more detail in the meeting when we have the draft.
I'd like to request from Department of Revenue. Can you just do a rough model of the tax implications versus the 25% with land and estimate the 50% People's Initiative, the difference in savings for everybody? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Case.
Mr. Chairman, with regards to the motion on the table, so if we kind of take the school meals out of it, what that does is just puts that burden on Cheyenne. There'd be less local resources that would go to schools. And I think that's probably what you want to do. But I think there is a bigger issue of removing the burden of property tax from local people that incur the cost of services. So I definitely make that point that nothing is free. It has to come from somewhere. And it'll come from our mineral industry is where we can find money. And it has implications all its own. You've heard from mineral industries, each one has faced issues and is tough times and commodity markets. So I think philosophically, I'm just kind of going like, when we remove the impacts of using local services from the people that use local services, there's no stopping point. That's kind of a check and balance in the system. So I'll be against the motion.
Senator Ride.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Case brings up a good point on that. But you don't necessarily, I don't think, have to point it to the minerals industry. I think you could point it to, the earnings that we get off of our investments too, that we had $1.8 billion worth last year of the people's money that could help satisfy that. So I don't think we want to point just to one sector. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, those earnings come from minerals. I mean, that was where the money came from. We're lucky to have them, and they are good. That was from minerals originally.
Representative Lean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make sure that I'm very clear about what we're voting on here is a motion to just remove the school mills and secure the percentage of residential property tax at 9.5 for everyone. Is that correct?
That is my understanding.
Mr. Chairman, there seems to be some kind of implication that we're offering less local resources to our schools when in fact the state would still be, no matter what happens at the local level, we're obligated to pay for education. And there are other avenues out there where we're not going to take money out of the left pocket and put it in the right pocket or ask other people to exchange that. And I think some of those ideas will come forward as we continue to move forward in the interim in revenue, particularly one will be tomorrow. And I recognize that there's a real hesitation with industry right now that if we don't secure this Amendment A at any one percentage point, that they're constantly on the hook and wondering when does their tax bill go up. And it is never my intent to make sure that we're business friendly and the industry is not going to pay taxes when we choose to reduce the size of government.
I sense we're ready to vote. All those in favor of bringing 110 back modified a little bit, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? I think the ayes have it. All those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? The ayes have it. Anybody have anything else? You want to give us a quick recap, Josh? That was kind of fast and furious.
Sure thing, Mr. Chairman. So we had the two different bills dealing with the impact of the initiative. One to make the 25% mirror the long-term homeowner, and then the other one to repeal the 25% if the People's Initiative passes. We have the bring back the bill, providing for fair market value on transfer, with the constitutional change, and the other bill to bring back the, bill setting, the rate at 0% for residential property, along with the related, sales tax, increase. And then the bill we just discussed, Senate File 110 as amended. So those were the bill drafts, and we have some additional, data requests we'll also bring back.
Representative Lean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before we close, I would like to see where the committee's at on bringing forth a bill proposal on Amendment A. I'm not sure if we want to set it as an owner occupied or just ask for a bill draft that secures that fourth class at 9 or 9.5% or, I'm open for suggestions. Is there an appetite on the committee to have a bill draft just addressing Amendment A?
Representative Store.
I would second that idea. I think it's been passed by the voters and is certainly a way for us to constitutionally adjust our property tax for owner occupied primary residences. And that was the idea that we had. And it's still a good idea. And in the face of probably what will be some challenges for the other ideas that we've done, I think we should at least go ahead and do that and have that in our back pocket. So that'll be a second.
Discussion. Co-Chairman Locke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On that, the one, I don't know that motion was clear, but at least I'm only for that motion if we actually do what I believe the people were expecting. And I'm not necessarily I think that takes it to 8.3 or whatever the appropriate is. If we don't take the percentage down, then I don't think we're doing what the people voted for, to be perfectly honest with you. And so I'm inclined to say if we're going to do that, we should be taking the percentage down. At least that's my opinion on that. I have always said that if we're not going to take the percentage down, it's not worth the vote, in my opinion.
Representative Store.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that was my idea, that we should bring it down to 8.3% for owner occupied and put it in statute.
And then leave the other at 9.5?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I'll make sure I understand it too. Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All those in favor, raise your hand.
This was taking it down. Okay. It takes it down. I'll vote for that. Takes it down the percentage.
Opposed? I think the ayes have it. And from the top rope. Anything else, anybody? You have a comment? Sure. Oh, I think on that note, we'll adjourn. Recess.